it's also good to see representations from some organizations with whom I was in the trenches before I joined government. It's good to hear that we have a representative from PADU, and I'll tell Donald there that I saw someone from PADU, same with Katima Institute. I'll tell Waikwa and Nora. I used to work with them at Open Society for several years. And also to meet with Alfred. You know, before I moved back to Sierra Leone, when I worked with Open Society, was based in Washington, D.C. Alfred and I, together with other members of the team at Open Society, we had a lot of conversations about public interest litigation in the context of environmental rights in West Africa. So it's good that we are still working on this, you know, and that will drive these conversations. But really, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to join you today and to be part of this important discussion where experts from across various disciplines and the African continent have convened to discuss environmental and natural resource rights and protection. The significance of this event cannot be overstated, as it highlights our collective responsibility to address one of the most pressing challenges of our time, that is climate change and the extension of the natural resources as human rights. Everything about the discussion is on a committed path towards legal and institutions. This is therefore the right moment to ensure that these reforms include climate change impact on the enjoyment of human rights. Legal empowerment is central to our justice sector reform strategy. As we embark on these reforms, whether it's in the context of land governance laws or laws governing the mineral sector, we want to invest in legal empowerment because we want communities to use the law to advocate for their fundamental human rights. I also want to note that as part of our justice sector reform strategy, we have made a commitment to deliver a justice process or have a justice system that will respond to people's unique justice needs, because we note that our justice needs are different. And so these conversations will really help inform our own thinking as we drive these reforms. It is also great that we are holding these discussions at a time when Sierra Leone is taking prominent positions at the global stage on the issue of state obligations in the context of climate change. For Sierra Leone, climate change does not just mean hotter days and nights. It means increased heat-related mortality and heat-related loss of labor productivity. It means erratic precipitation patterns and more frequent dry spells, with huge spillover effects on water-dependent sectors such as agriculture. It means extensive floods, heavy storms, and landslides throughout parts of the country, which will take away lives, will destroy homes, and strain critical social infrastructure and healthcare services. It means drought and famine, with serious implications for food systems and water availability. It means that Sierra Leone's coastlines will be permanently altered. People will be forced to leave their homes, and the most vulnerable communities will be exposed to acute food insecurity. This will worsen already challenging economic, social, and environmental conditions, with implications for political stability of the state of Sierra Leone. You will know that the International Tribunal on the Law of the Sea recently issued its advisory opinion on the subject of state obligations in respect of damage caused to the marine environment. Sierra Leone was one of 7 countries in Africa and the only country in West Africa that participated in these ICLOS proceedings. On the 21st of May 2024, the tribunal's judges unanimously affirmed that state parties to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, quote, have the specific obligations to take all necessary measures to prevent, reduce, and control marine pollution. I am proud to have led Sierra Leone's legal team and made our country's submissions in these historic proceedings before the Law of the Sea Tribunal. In December 2024, Sierra Leone equally joined several states to make submissions for another advisory opinion before the International Court of Justice. Sierra Leone's submissions raised several questions for the ICJ, including the human rights impacts of climate change. It is Sierra Leone's position that there is a strong interconnection between climate change and the enjoyment of human rights. It is our position that environmental or climate issues are human rights issues. We note that since 2008, the United Nations Human Rights Council has adopted a series of resolutions underscoring that the current climate crisis directly threatens the enjoyment of human rights. The Human Rights Council recognized in one such resolution, 4121, that climate change imperils the full and effective enjoyment of a range of human rights, including the right to life, water and sanitation, food, health, housing, self-determination, culture, and development. The Council stressed that states must, in all climate change-related actions, fully, quote, respect, promote, and consider their respective obligations on human rights, quote. In its advisory opinion on the environment and human rights, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights reaffirmed the, quote, undeniable relationship between the protection of the environment and the realization of other human rights, in that environmental degradation and the adverse effects of climate change affect the real enjoyment of human rights. In 2021, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights and the Office of the Special Rapporteur on Economic, Social, Cultural, and Environmental Rights adopted Resolution number 3/21, which expressly recognized that states, quote, must incorporate a human rights approach, unquote, in their legislations on climate change and for the effective protection of human rights. The United Nations General Assembly recognized that climate change is one of the most pressing and serious threats to the ability of present and future generations to effectively enjoy all human rights. In its 2021 report, UNICEF also stressed that the climate crisis is a child rights crisis, reporting that approximately 1 billion children are at extremely high risk of the impacts of climate change, and warned that unless we invest heavily in adaptation and resilience of social services for the 4.2 billion children born over the next 30 years, they will face increasingly high risk to their survival and well-being. In its general comment, number 26, the United Nations Child Rights Committee highlighted the urgent need to address the adverse effects of climate change on the enjoyment of children's rights, and clarified that children's rights under the Convention on the Rights of the Child are directly applicable to environmental protection. Among other things, the committee expressed that states owe a heightened duty of care toward children who are far more likely than adults to suffer serious harm. We also note that the Paris Agreement recognizes a nexus between climate change and states' international human rights obligations, calling upon state parties to respect, promote and consider their respective obligations on human rights, the right to health, the rights of indigenous peoples, local communities, migrants, persons with disabilities, and people in vulnerable situations. This provision means that states should both, one, consider human rights as a reason to act on mitigation, adaptation, and loss and damage in response to the climate emergency, and two, ensure that all actions are consistent with their human rights obligations, especially in relation to populations in situations of vulnerability or marginalization. Ladies and gentlemen, climate change is without doubt a human rights issue. Indeed, it may well be one of the greatest threats to human rights the world has ever experienced. It is based on all of these that we noted in our submission to the International Court of Justice that climate change threatens the enjoyment of a broad range of human rights, but not limited to life, right health, right privacy, family life, right to water, right to safe and conscious life, right to education, right to an adequate standard of living, including housing, right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, right to development, and right to self-determination. We noted these in light of their particular and explained what steps national human rights law to prevent the harmful effects of human-induced climate change and minimize the risks thereof. It is our hope, ladies and gentlemen, that the jurisprudence from these advisory opinions, that is one by the Law of the Sea Tribunal as well as the International Court of Justice, that will help enhance our discussions on the home front and provide guidance for us on how we ensure a human rights-centered approach to our response to climate change. On that note, ladies and gentlemen,